Some of the key articles up at prisonplanet.com that we haven't even gotten to, I've kind of gotten acclimated to accept this myself, is radioactive blankets United States, radionuclide blankets United States. Authorities insist levels are harmless. Incredible German, French, and other forecast and live maps of some of the radioactive nuclei, xenon-133 and others, that have been detected. And while James Corbett's talking, joining us from Japan, if you're watching on prisonplanet.tv, we're going to be playing some of these videos, or just go to Infowars.com or prisonplanet.com and get the article, Radioactive Nuclei, Blankets United States, Authorities Insist Levels Are Harmless, kind of giving us the Ann Coulter line. James, let's go ahead and take a few calls. Let's talk to Kevin in New York. Kevin, thanks for holding it on the air.
Hi there, Alex. I got to tell you, it's a pleasure to talk to you, a true patriot.
Well, I'm just trying to be a half moral person. I mean, I don't really deserve any credit. I'm just doing my job here. But what's on your mind, sir?
Listen, I actually had something that I wanted to talk about, but during the first segment of your show, you mentioned something that I'd rather talk about instead, which is you had mentioned something about McCain there rallying together constitutional scholars in the midst of Bush era there. And, it seems to me a year or two ago that Obama had said he was some kind of constitutional scholar, didn't he?
Yeah, he taught constitutional law at one of the universities. I forget which one. I think it's Harvard. Was it Yale? I think it went to Harvard. But the point is, they know that it's unconstitutional to have the UN give the order to attack Libya and then not even consult Congress, and then Congress lays down to it, which is even more incredible. Amazing precedents being set right now, and they're moving to have NATO actually command the whole operation with no consultation with Congress. James Corbett, what's your take on that?
Absolutely. Well, if President Obama is the example of constitutional scholars, I think we can do with less constitutional scholars. It's unthinkable that the idea that the commander-in-chief, who is some sort of constitutional scholar, is waging this completely unconstitutional military action right now.
Well, why do we even have a Congress if they're just ignoring the law, the Constitution, and we're now taking direct orders? I mean, when the UN said attack, Obama said, you say jump, I say how high. I mean, it is completely groveling.
Why don't we just appoint him Lord Emperor and just have done with it?
Well, that's basically what he is Lord Emperor. I mean, what would happen in Japan if the emperor started telling the diet what to do? There would be a big scandal. I mean, the president has become an emperor who is a servant of the UN.
Absolutely, and that's one of the good things about the people here in Japan is that they're not lying down to the emperor. They don't worship him anymore, and they certainly there's a lot of protest even at school ceremonies and things where people have to look at the flag and sing the national anthem. There are still a lot of teachers that won't do it, so there are a lot of people who still realize what all of that means and are not happy with the idea of monarchy.
Yeah, swearing allegiance to Japan is not about swearing allegiance to some emperor.
Absolutely, that's absolutely right, and I'm glad that the Japanese people don't buy into that.
Well, the Japanese elite have some of from the statistics I've seen, some of the biggest separation between the wealth of the population and the ultra-rich. They already own the place. Why would they greedily build reactors on fault lines on the beach when they know tsunamis come in? They acted surprised that a tsunami came with an earthquake.
Yeah, they're only acting surprised now because they've gotten caught in the midst of this terrible tragedy. But obviously, it's unthinkable the things that they're doing, and it's going to lead to more disasters.
When we come back, I want to get your take on the Japanese people, what you're hearing from them living in Japan all these years, where they want the future of nuclear power to go in Japan. And by the way, this Tokyo Power and Electric is set to build 3 to 4 reactors in South Texas on our hurricane-ravaged coastline. It's not as bad. We don't have a lot of earthquakes, so I guess it's better. We are back live taking your phone calls, first-time callers, 800-259-9231. 800-259-9031. I'm going back to your calls. Scott, William, and others here in just a moment. But before we do that, we have James Corbett of the Corbett Report He's also an English teacher there in Japan, lived there since 2004. He's there now. And what are Japanese saying about nuclear power and its future there?
Well, perhaps I'm a bit biased because I've interviewed a lot of people, anti-nuclear people, for my website, and I've been to Hiroshima a number of times, and obviously the Hiroshima Peace Institute and other places like that. People are obviously very much opposed to the idea of nuclear weapons, of course, and nuclear power is, of course, an adjunct of that, and we see that in things like the MOX fuel, which, of course, is just spent weapons-grade plutonium being used as fuel for these reactors. So there is a huge anti-nuclear movement here, and a very strong one, as you could imagine. And for anyone who hasn't visited the Hiroshima Peace Museum, it's a harrowing experience, and one of the most striking things to me, the one that really started to choke me up when I was there, is at the end of the museum, you've seen all of this devastation and carnage that was produced by the bombs, and then as you're leaving, there's a wall, and it's just a huge wall of just replicas of letters that the mayor of Hiroshima has sent. Every single time there has been a nuclear test, the mayor of Hiroshima sends a letter to that government, the president or prime minister of that country, and pleads with them to stop doing it. And it's just letter after letter after letter after letter, and you see hundreds of letters pleading for the end of the abolishment of nuclear weapons.
We're going to put
Very powerful.
It is powerful. We're going to put. I've seen video of it. We're going to put up on screen a graph of nuclear tests, over 300 by the U.S. total, more than all other countries combined, and it was citizens protesting worldwide that stopped the above-ground test, and it shows the New World Order eugenicist mindset in that they would drop 2 A-bombs on Japan, and it came out later that they were unconditionally trying to surrender for at least a month in private, safe, face-saving communiques to the West. They'd been firebombed end to end with their paper and wood houses. The firebombing in one single day in one event a few months before Hiroshima and Nagasaki killed, the reports I saw, more than 300,000 people, actually more devastating than the 2 A-bombs they dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki that day. But they did that as a power play, and then the globalists, they didn't care about the Japanese, and they didn't care about Americans with 300 above-ground tests, more than 300, and above-ground tests all over the Pacific, radiating our own troops, everybody else. Those islands are still highly radioactive today. I mean, what type of New World Order person soils their own nest? I mean, what's wrong with these globalists? What's going on with them? Because they're hurting themselves as well.
They absolutely are. They're destroying the environment of the Earth itself, and it makes you wonder what their end game really is, because it can't involve living and functioning as a human being on this planet. They're obviously working towards their transhumanist ideal of merging with the machines and propagating out into space, and it just goes to show the absolutely self-destructive mindset of these people. And anyone who's siding with them really has to do a double check and look in the mirror and ask why they're saying things like radiation is good for you and other such despicable lies like that, as people start to die in increasing numbers as the soft kill gets ratcheted up into hard kill.
Well, very well said. And by the way, you just quoted some of the top transhumanists that we have in Endgame. It's all over their literature by Nobel Prize winners, top scientists, about how anything we do is natural. If we destroy the Earth, that's evolution, because we were a species that developed. If we cease to be humans and merge with machines, which is their goal, and they exterminate the rest of us, that's a good thing. I've talked to people that work at IBM, and I say, well, what about their Human Genome Project, all this gene splicing? And they said, well, whatever humans do is natural, because that's part of our mutation that we make this. And it's this argument where we're not supposed to have a say. And no, I do have a say. I'm not going to eat your GMO food. Stop pushing it on me. I don't want a nuclear reactor in my neighborhood. We have one in Austin that nobody knows about up at the J.J. Pickle Center. I've had enough of it.
Oh, stop being such a Luddite, Alex. You should just sit there and take it, and you should enjoy all these nourishing, wonderful GMOs and all this wonderful technology that's being unleashed on us right now and killing people in higher and higher numbers. This is what you want. This is what you'll get.
It certainly is. And you guys pulled up on Wikipedia the total number the other day. They're showing a map on screen of just 100 tests in the U.S. alone. In Nevada, I know the total number is over 300 by the U.S. It's over 200 by all other nations, Russia, France, England. France did a lot. Just incredible. Scott in Idaho. Scott, you're on the air. Go ahead, sir.
Hello, Alex.
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Well, thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank you and your activist listeners for your efforts in the battle for liberty and the cause of freedom. You've followed the encouragement of Thomas Jefferson, who encouraged us all to educate and inform the whole mass of the people, for they are the only sure reliance for the preservation of our liberty. Ecclesiastes tells us, Alex, that a wise man's heart discerneth both time and judgment. And your heart has discerned both the time in which we live and the crisis that we currently all face. The word judgment in that verse comes from the Hebrew word krisis, from which we derive our English word crisis. It denotes an experience and time of crucial testing and has reference to the experience one undergoes out of which a decision or judgment is made. And we all now have a decision to make. Do we want to go along to get along? Do we want to go along with the insanity that has enveloped the planet?
With the TSA putting their hands down our pants, with the radiation, with the GMO, with the wars, with the UN ordering our country to attack and the Congress not involved, the globalists understand these natural laws, and they are testing us and setting these wicked, wicked precedents.
It's all coming down now, Alex, and you've been talking about it for many years. I think I've been listening to you and posting your articles since 1995. The New World Order agenda, the police state, endless undeclared wars, surveillance society, eugenics/population reduction, economic collapse. It's all happening before our eyes right now.
And that's how history works, my brother, is that everything comes at once. And everything we've seen is only the birth pains, the buildup. Even what we're seeing now is only the buildup. I mean, it's incredible.
It's absolutely mind-boggling. Absolutely mind-boggling. I just want to touch on a couple things here. First of all, this is all happening to us individually because we have not heeded the warnings of history. We have not heeded the words of our wise founding fathers, the words that were spoken at Nuremberg, and the words of Eisenhower, who warned us about the military-industrial complex. Abraham Lincoln warned us about the time in which we live in 1864. He said, and I quote, "I see in the near future a crisis approaching that unnerves me and causes me to tremble for the safety of my country. Corporations have been enthroned, and an era of corruption in high places will follow, and the money power of the country will endeavor to prolong its reign by working upon the prejudices of the people until all wealth is aggregated in a few hands and the public is destroyed."
And that's a real quote on record. God bless you. I appreciate your call. And you can see Lincoln two-sided as a tyrant of federal power, but at the same time, he did issue our own currency and was killed over it and was his own man. And again, I'm a Southerner, and my ancestors were on the side of the South. It doesn't mean the North was right or the South was right. The British intelligence, this is mainline history, but it's taught in PhD level, but it's mainline history books. This is not debatable. British intelligence came in and fomented the South, who was being wronged by tariffs that were unfairly placed on them and not the North. They were manipulated into that war, and the British put, 19,000 troops up in Toronto, threatening to invade, trying to get the breakup of the country. And then the Tsar had to send his fleet in to threaten the British not to do it, and that caused a big rift that then caused the British intelligence to fund the communists going in, many years later in 1917 to overthrow their cousin, Tsar Nicholas. And it's when you know history, you understand all this. James, I'm going to keep you all the way to 30 after, but comments on what the caller Scott just said.